Welcome to episode 9 of the Popanimecomics Lounge. My guest this week is Tiffany Grant, the voice of Asuka from Neon Genesis Evangelion. Before we get into the interview, I would just like to mention a quick word from my sponsors, Simply Nerdtastic. Now, they're a health and beauty store where they specialize in making anime, otaku, geek-type soaps. In particular, they have two cool products that I just recently got, which is a Game Boy soap. It's a soap in the shape of a Game Boy Color, as well as they have Game Boy Color cartridges soaps and from Pokemon, Legend of Zelda, as well as some other cool games. I just purchased both those items. I'm really satisfied with it, and I recommend you go check out their items because they're great to put in your bathroom if you're a fan of Pokemon, or you just want a cool conversation piece when your guests come over and you want to express your anime, nerd, geek type love in all the rooms of your house. This is a great way to do it in the bathroom. Their website is www.etsy.com/shop/simplynerdtastic. I will be putting the link in the description, and you should check them out. Go buy some cool soaps. They're great holiday gifts as holidays are approaching, and they do support this podcast, so you should go support them as they continuously support this podcast and help to bring this podcast to you for free, as well as you can check out my website, popanimecomics.com, where I write about anime, comics, pop culture, and if you click on the affiliate links, I get a small commission from Amazon.com, which helps keep my podcasts lower, along with my sponsors, so I can continuously bring you a podcast every single week. Now, without further ado, let's get right into the interview with Tiffany Grant. You've been active in voice acting since 1994. Were you a fan of anime before you came into the industry?
I was somewhat. I do get that question a lot, and something that people have to really understand about 1994 is there was not a lot of anime. I watched Speed Racer when I was a kid, and when I was a teenager, I was a fan of Robotech, so I would say, I definitely had watched some anime, but I can tell you that when our very first show came out on videotape, I went into Suncoast just to look at it because I was in a real movie and it was at Suncoast. It was very exciting. So I went in and there was a shelf, and it was really like half of a shelf, and there was a sign that said Japanimation, and there were probably about 8 videotapes. That was their anime section. And those 8 tapes, there was maybe like 4 or 5 different titles. So that was the anime selection that people had available to them in 1994. So if I say I wasn't like, I was a big rabid anime fan, I wasn't avoiding it. It was avoiding me. It just wasn't around.
So how did you come to become a voice actor?
Well, I was an actor, and my background was in theater, which is like most actors, really. And I got a call one day about this audition that was happening, and they were looking for actors. And, I was an actor. Here was an acting job, so that sounded great, and I went, and they hired me. So really just as basic as that. I was an actor and there was an acting job, and I auditioned and I got the part. So 21 years later, and I'm still doing it.
When you went to go for this job, did you have any formal training in voice acting?
Oh, no. I didn't have any type of voice acting training. But, really, there are different mediums for acting: theater, film, voiceover, but at the core of it, it's still, you're telling a story. So you're communicating with the audience. The underlying tools and techniques, that's really the same. I mean, there are different things, physical techniques, things that you do to suit the medium that you're in, if you're on stage or on camera or whatever. But I just had, taken regular acting classes, theater, really. At that point, I hadn't taken any on camera either. Not that would have been helpful for voiceover, but no, I had no kind of voiceover training whatsoever.
So for your first role, was it that you just auditioned and they chose you immediately? Or
Yes, and that's really the crazy part about it is I went in to audition and I read a couple of different parts, and I also Matt Greenfield, who was directing the show, and everybody wants to know what it is. Okay, it was called Guy Double Target, which was hentai. And really did not care because it was my first show. A lot of it was kind of action, and then, oh my God, what are they doing right now? Action, adventure. Oh my God, they're doing that stuff again. So it was, yeah. Anyway, but when I went into audition, besides just, reading along with the scenes that I was auditioning for, I always forget which one it was, but Matt had everybody reading some scene out of a Marx Brothers movie that he likes. He really likes some of the Marx Brothers movies, and it was like A Night at the Opera or something. I know, Matt, it's probably wrong. He's not here, but if he was here, he'd probably tell me it was the wrong thing. So, but it was a very strange audition, and so Matt, at the end of the audition, Matt Greenfield, who you have to understand, I married him 9 years after that, so I do know him very well at this point. Anyway, so he said, "Oh yes, that was fine, and we'll probably be calling you. Thank you." And I thought, oh, I guess that went okay. And then the other guy, John Ledford, came running out after me. Oh, that was fantastic! You're going to play the female lead. So it was these conflicting things, like Matt with his stereotypical grumpy face. He looks like that all the time. And yeah, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so I actually got hired like right on the spot, which really is not normal for anybody who's ever been to an audition. That does not normally happen. But I got hired, yeah, right there. It was February 12th, 1994. And I was the first person in Texas to be hired to be a voice actor in anime. We were, doing it all for the first time here in Texas anyway. And of course, as people who would be listening to this probably know, most of the anime that gets dubbed in the U.S., it is dubbed in Texas. It's either in Houston or in Dallas. So there I was, right on the ground floor. I just really, really lucky for me.
So before we move on to the next question, I have to ask this.
Yes.
Did you know it was a hentai when you were going to the audition?
Well, I can say categorically that I never had heard the word hentai whatsoever before I ever worked in anime. I mean, it's not a common word in the vernacular in 1994. And even at the time, I'm sure I didn't know that word, but I mean, I knew like what some of the content was in there, because you're watching it as you're auditioning. So yeah, I saw that was in there. And really, my character was not that much in. She really wasn't in those scenes. There was like the main characters, Guy and Raina, and like I said, they're having this crazy space adventure, and they're trying to, do this heist and get rich and everything, which goes terribly wrong. There's only 2 episodes of it. It's just an OVA, and well, I know about the backstory of it just because that Matt was the one who licensed it, and he has a pretty good relationship with the original creator. But so this guy was, I can't think of his name, but the creator of the show, he was making like a space adventure thing that they're like, it has to have sex in it. So like I said, it would be this honestly pretty incoherent story. And then suddenly, oh, look, lesbians, what are they doing? So the scenes, the sex scenes, they're very gratuitous. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. Just like suddenly, like, oh, that's happening now. So no tentacles, just people, just outer space lesbians. So what can I say? It was an experience, and I will tell you, it was my first professional acting job, and I was so excited about doing it that I basically showed this videotape to everyone, like my dad, my grandparents. I'm like, hey, Grandma, look at this. And they're like, oh, that was interesting. So, yeah, if I knew I would do, like thousands more episodes of anime, I probably would not have shown them that one, but it was my first one, so nothing like your first time.
So after this first time, for
Yes,
lack of a
Guy.
better word,
Yes.
Was it easier to get more roles, or how did you get another,
Yeah.
role?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because, like I said, this was the first anime that was dubbed in Texas. And I mean, Matt was very knowledgeable. He had done a lot of research. He had already, by that time, he had been an anime fan for most of his life. He was one of those rare people who, had been following anime for a long, long time. And he also had a background as a theater and film student in college and, making his own movies and all that kind of stuff. So he had a background doing that kind of thing, film production and writing and all of that. So but still, we had never really, none of us had ever dubbed an anime before. So we did it. And when it came time for them to do the second show and they were auditioning for that, I was one of the most experienced people in the entire state in dubbing anime because I had done one show, which was one more than most of the other actors in town had done. So, it just kind of snowballed like that, And then when they were auditioning for the next one, the second show that we did, it was actually Samurai Showdown, the motion picture based on the video game. And then the third thing that we did, it was an OVA called Burn Up, the original Burn Up. So like I said, when they're getting ready to do the next one, oh, well, who are the most experienced people? We should probably call them back in. And the whole thing just continued from there. I admit I was extremely lucky. I was very fortunate to get in at the beginning. My first role was a lead. And most people who are getting into anime, that their first role is not a lead. But if there's no one else who's ever done it, then what are you going to do? So, I was very lucky.
So now we're going to get into Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Yes, absolutely. I figured we would.
How'd you land the role of Asuka?
Well, apparently I am Asuka. That's the thing that, as it turns out, I'm Asuka. So we had we dubbed several shows by the time we got around to doing Evangelion. We had worked on a number of shows, mostly OVAs, but we had already been working on one TV series, which was Blue Seed, which was a pretty cool show, action, fantasy kind of thing. And so we'd been doing that, and there were a lot of projects going on. Back in those days, we would dub like an OVA that was one episode, and that's what would come out on a videotape. I think people do not really know that. But anyway, so I kind of got wind that there was some new project that was being worked on at the studio. If people are not aware, my character, Asuka, she doesn't come in until episode 8. And back in those days, we would only record 2 episodes at a time because that's what came out on a videotape, was just 2 episodes. So I heard they were working on this series around the fall of 1996. And, there was kind of a buzz going around the studio about it. But of course, in 1996, Evangelion, it was not some big international phenomenon. It was still airing on TV in Japan. But the people who worked at ADV, the people who had seen it, that was the licensing company, ADV Films, the people there who had seen it, apparently they all kept coming into Matt Greenfield's office. He was the guy who was writing, directing, producing Evangelion. And all these people kept coming in and saying, okay, so now Tiffany is going to be Asuka, right? And somehow there was just everyone assuming that I was going to be Asuka. Unbeknownst to me, there had been this huge round of auditions for Shinji and Misato and Ritsuko, etc., Rei. There were all these auditions that happened. I never knew about it. I was never asked to any of them. I didn't audition for anything. I guess my audition for Asuka was A, being Tiffany Grant, and B, having already worked on a lot of other shows by that time. So, I remember after they'd been working on it for a few months, I went into Matt's office. Remember, we're not married at this time or dating or anything. I'm just this loud, obnoxious voice actor. So I go into his office and I was like, hey, I heard you're working on this new show. How come I don't have a part in that? Can I, come in? I'll do like some background stuff or whatever. No, you can't. And I kept, annoying him like I do and asking to have a part in this show. And he was like, well, look, you have a part in it. She's just not in the show yet. Oh, well, that doesn't sound very good. I thought it must not be a very important role, right? If she wasn't in it yet. She's not in until the 8th episode, so I'm like, well, fine. So he had this Asuka and Rey figure in his office. He was saying, look at that girl in the red there. That's your character. And I went, okay, whatever. So in the meantime, as it happens, I also speak German. So that was really handy for playing Asuka, since she is part German and she grew up in Germany. So that was really good. Yeah, I mean, that's really how it all came about. I did not ever audition for the part of Asuka, other than just being me. And after I played Asuka for a couple of years, I did go through this thing where I'm not Asuka, I'm not anything like Asuka. And then I finally had what I like to call a little Tiffany epiphany, where I went, oh, yeah, I am Asuka. Okay, I get it now. And actually, the first time I met Yuko Miyamura, she's the original Asuka, the first time I met her, I think probably within the first 5 minutes, she said to me that she understood why I was chosen to play Asuka. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not, but we did become pretty good friends after that. So, yeah. And then, of course, that led to me playing a lot of other German characters later on. But my mom said taking German in high school was a terrible mistake and that it would never be useful for anything, by the way, just in case people want to know that. Not true. It's been very useful.
So Asuka is very unique on many levels.
Yeah.
What is hard about portraying her voice?
To be honest with you, nothing. Asuka is really with me all the time. I do not need a reference file to play Asuka. She is always just like right there. It's like she's just following me around all the time. I can hear her in my head when I'm out there and it's 97 degrees trying to change my headlight, and she's going, "What are you, stupid?" And I just like, she's with me all the time. So I never. Asuka is probably one of the easiest roles I ever played. That's such an awful thing to say, but it's true. I can't lie. I'm beyond lying about it. It's true. I am Asuka. I'd like to think, marginally nicer than Asuka most of the time, but my inner Asuka, she comes out. It's true.
Was there any point when you were voicing her that you just knew that Evangelion and Asuka was going to be such like a loved and recognizable character?
No, I really had absolutely no idea. I actually pulled up my credits here so I could look at them while I'm talking to you. So by the time I played Asuka, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I'd worked on 16 shows by the time I got to Evangelion. So none of those other things had been, like the big, I mean, you don't know. So no, I didn't ever really, I loved playing the part and it was really great and it was a lot of fun. But it was, really it was after it came out and started getting a lot of attention. And that was around the time I started going to conventions. I actually went to my first convention in May of 1997. But that was before Asuka Strikes, her first episode 8. That was videotape number 4. That was before that came out. So then, as the popularity of Evangelion grew, I started getting invited to more conventions. But no, we did not know that it would still, keep propelling forward. We just had the 20th anniversary, and June 22nd, 2015, that was the third Impact. So thankfully that passed in an uneventful fashion in the real 2015 when we have no hoverboards. Sorry, that was Back to the Future, but we don't have any hoverboards, and I think that that's very important to note.
So, what convention did it hit that, oh my god, me voicing Asuka, like, propels me as one of, like, the most recognizable voice actors?
Goodness.
Not to make you think, but...
Yeah, not too long, because it really started coming out, so I'm pulled up my conventions list here. Probably, I think it must have been my third convention, which my third convention was Otakon number 5, which was in Arlington, Virginia. This was before it was in Baltimore. And, yeah, it was very evident by that point that it was a thing. And I mean, back in those days, I used to go to conventions and I would be wearing a red Asuka plug suit too. So that was a little bit crazy. And of course, none of the other actors, not many voice actors were going to conventions, but the ones who did certainly were not dressing up as their characters. But yeah, by the summer of 1998, I could tell, okay, this seems to kind of be a big deal. And it's really never let up. It's kind of, it's crazy to be part of something like that. Because obviously it's one of those things where nobody ever knows when you're working on something at the time that, what's going to be super popular and what's going to be, not so much. What will be enduring and what will not. Because even though some things might be popular for a time, they kind of fade away. They are not necessarily around 20 years later.
So you've also been involved with Evangelion outside the anime. Outside, I guess, the kosher anime.
Yeah,
How'd you get involved with Evangelion R?
Wow, it is so long ago that is really hard for me to remember, but really nice young guy who was probably a high school senior or maybe a college freshman at the time. Now he's married and he's like a neurosurgeon. But anyway, he was this young guy, about 18 years old, and he had this website. And I guess he emailed me and told me about it. And I looked at the website and he asked me if I would record some dialogue for it. And I thought, okay, well, sure, that looks pretty good. I mean, that must have been about 1998 or 99. And I didn't even have a microphone at that time. So he mailed me a microphone. It was a horrible microphone, by the way. I'm sorry, Mayor, but it really was a horrible microphone. But anyway, I recorded it the best I could. And he has run my website ever since then. Because I remember when I recorded it and he emailed me and he said, well, do you want to put this on your website or something like that? And I said, well, I don't have a website. And he said, oh, well, I'll make a website for you. And now he's a neurosurgeon. He still runs my website. So that's kind of funny, but it's true. So that's been, I don't know, about 17 years ago. And there was a period of time when he had the only fan Evangelion site that actually was approved by Gainax. I mean, Gainax doesn't have the rights to Eva anymore. So, but for a while, that was kind of a big deal. It was a sanctioned fan website, and it was very good.
And also, you were involved in the radio plays. How'd you get involved in that?
Oh, wow. You know what? I do not even remember, to tell you the truth. I wish I did. I don't know. I mean, it was just really like people email me about all kinds of crazy things. And, sometimes if it sounds like something I'm interested in and I have the time, I'll do it. But, yeah, really, it's just as simple as that. Somebody emails me and, will you do it? And I look at it. And if it seems like it might be fun, then sure, why not?
So now we're going to leave the world of Evangelion
That's fine.
You're an independent contractor.
That is so true. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, I've never been an employee of ADV or Funimation or Sentai, any of those companies. It's completely contract. The length of my employment is I show up, hi, how's everybody doing? I step in the booth, I talk, blah, 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 blah. I step out of the booth, unemployed. That's really how it works.
Do you feel that being an independent contractor, you get
Mhm.
to do more characters?
Mm, no, I don't think that has any bearing on that. It's just simply like that's a normal way that acting works. It's all just a gig, if you get a radio commercial or a part in a film or whatever, you show up, you do your thing, you're done, you leave, unemployed. But I don't think I don't think that really makes any difference because all actors are contractors. So it's not like, oh, I'm a contractor and other people are not, because we're all contractors.
So do you feel that, yeah, I mean, we're going slightly back to Evangelion, but do you feel
That's
that
okay.
your role as Asuka helped to get you other roles in Full Metal Alchemist and
Um,
Elfen Lion?
uh, lead, but I don't know if that specifically. It's more just like a whole body of work, really. Um, yeah, by the time I worked on Full Metal Alchemist, that was like 2005 when I did that, and the director on that was Mike McFarland, who also directed the Rebuild movies, the Ava Rebuild movies. I've worked on several things with him. I've done about 20 projects with Funimation, so I've done several things with them. Um, the only thing job that I got that I felt like Ava really kind of helped get me the job was a video game that I worked on about 15 years ago called Deus Ex 2 Invisible War. And I went to that audition and I took my voice acting resume with me, and they did seem kind of excited that I was an Evangelion, I will say. But that's the only time I think that really had any bearing, because the other, like all the other, I've worked with a lot of different directors through Funimation and through the various companies in Houston, and I really can't say that really had any bearing on it. Believe it or not, I don't really think so. Doesn't that I don't see any direct link there, because like I said, at the time, like when I started voicing Asuka, I had already voiced a lot of other characters, and it was interspersed. So it's not like I went into the studio for a week and recorded everything that Asuka did in the whole series. I was working on Evangelion off and on for about a year. So we'd go in and record 2 episodes of Evangelion, and then the next week I would do an episode of Golden Boy or Kimura or like the Gamera movie. So it was all interspersed. So it wasn't. I just kept working. That's all. I just ever since I started with voice acting, I've just really continued to work. So I think it just kind of all builds on itself. And nowadays, most of the anime work that I get, I very rarely audition for it. It's usually I just get offered the job. I'm not that I never audition anymore, but that's pretty rare. Most of the time they already know what I can do. It's like, well, you've done these hundreds and hundreds of other things, so you could probably do this.
Do you have a favorite character that you voiced outside of Evangelion?
That it's really hard for me to pick a favorite, which sounds like a cop out answer, but it's just really true. I've just done a lot of different characters. They're so different, and I really enjoy so much that opportunity to get to keep creating different kinds of characters, doing different things. I love the process of it, and there's not one that really stands out in any way more. Not that I don't, there are certain ones that I just really, really loved, but to pick one out over the other ones is just very difficult for me to do.
So to shift the focus a little bit, you're also big into ADR-ing.
Well, ADR is the process of dubbing. It's
Yes.
depending on who you ask, like automatic dialogue replacement. So that's what like dubbing is ADR. That's what it is.
So that includes rewriting a script.
Well, just ADR is the whole process. So, like when I go in and voice a character, you could say that I'm ADRing the role, or dubbing, or voicing. Those are all synonymous terms. ADR just basically it means dubbing. Yeah, it's just fancy. Although, like I said, people can't really agree on what it stands for, but it's something like automatic dialogue replacement, or people are pretty fixed on the dialogue replacement. It's the A where people can't really agree. But I'm sure what you're getting at is script adapting.
Yes.
And yes, so that is one element, because you have to have a script that is written specifically for this. It's a really technical process, because you need it to carry the correct intention of what's being said, but then it also has to be a certain number of syllables, so that's always kind of a pain in the rear. But, challenging, and I will tell you the most recent project that I worked on it really is one of my favorite shows ever, ever, ever that I've worked on. It's something called Parasite the Maxim, and it's an incredible show. It's hard for me to find enough superlative adjectives to describe how great this show is. I'm very excited about it. I'm looking forward to it being dubbed, and I was really, really glad that I got to work on the scripts for that, because it's just an absolutely incredible show. It's based on a manga that came out probably at least 15 years ago. Then it got optioned by an American film studio, I think New Line Pictures, but I could be wrong on that. And so the rights got all tied up for a long time. And then finally, when those rights had expired, they made this 24-episode anime, which is great. They've also apparently made a couple of live-action feature films, which, according to Matt Greenfield, were pretty much crap. So don't watch them. But please watch the anime, because it's great.
You've been to a bunch of conventions.
So many. Yes, a lot.
Do you have a goal in mind with that?
I do. Do you already know what the answer to the question is that you're asking? You might. Yes. Okay. So, this past weekend, I was at my 232nd convention as a guest. I got this idea in my mind a few years ago. I suddenly thought, you know what? I've been to an awful lot of conventions. I wonder how many states I've gone to. So I keep lists of everything. Lists of the conventions that I've done, lists of the animes that I've voice acted in, lists of the ones I've done scripts for. So I have a list of all this stuff. So I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And I think I counted it up, and it was like, well, I've done cons in 30 states. That's pretty good. That's more than half the states. And then I thought, it'd be really cool if I could get to a convention in every state. Not just visit those states, but actually be at a con in those states. So I've only got 6 left. That's the thing is, yeah. So which states are they? New Jersey, Rhode Island, Delaware, North Dakota, Montana, and Wyoming. Those are the six states. So it is my very, very warmest wish that I could get invited to conventions in those states. Not that other states are not good. I'm going to cons in all kinds of places. I just was in Buffalo, New York. My next one is coming up, Asheville, North Carolina. That's on August 1st, if anybody wants to come and see me there. I'm doing a bunch of cons in August. But yeah, so ideally, I would like to get to do a convention in every single state. And so far, it's 44 states. I've done a con that was actually in Washington, D.C., in the District of Columbia. So, and 4 or 5 different Canadian provinces too, and some other foreign countries. But I'm just, trying to get all the states. Got to catch them all. It's like Pokemon.
So, do you have any advice for people who want to get into, ADR and dubbing and in the industry as a whole?
That is difficult. And of course, that's a question I get a lot. So I told you my story, which was my boyfriend from junior high calls me out of the blue and said, "Hey, these guys are dubbing this Japanese cartoon. Want to go to the audition?" Crazy, right? It basically boils down to, like I said, I was an actor. I found out about an audition. I went. I was the first person in the state of Texas to get hired as an anime actor. That's pretty crazy. So from my perspective, you can't do that, unless maybe you have a TARDIS and you go back in time and then you kill me. Please don't do that. So what I think about is, acting, it's a ridiculous thing that anybody would do in the first place. It's crazy. But if you feel compelled, as many do, and as I do, then I say start wherever you are and just, pursue acting. And, it's through actually doing it, through, taking classes and through actually acting, you meet other actors and then someone tells you, "Hey, there's an audition. You should go to that." And it's really mostly networking. It used to be in ye olden times, in what I just found out is called the golden age of anime dubbing. They used to have open auditions at ADV. That's not a thing that happens anymore. So, from what I know, in Houston, there are not really open auditions that, specifically for anime. In Funimation, I think they occasionally have open auditions. I'm not sure how that's handled because I've never done an open audition at Funimation, so I really don't know. One thing that is an absolute fact, though, and that is, if anything that you want to work in, for the most part, for most professional acting jobs, you have to live where that job is happening. Now, if you want to do voiceover, like narration or commercials and that kind of stuff, you can live on the side of a mountain. It does not matter. And you can have your own studio set up and you can record there, and that's great. But if it's anime, you have to live in the place where it's being dubbed. You have to live there. Not, "Oh, well, I could be there next Tuesday." No, it's like, "Oh, can you come in tomorrow morning?" And so you have to live there. You absolutely do. I know an unusual thing happened this year. Of course, it's already come and gone. But in Houston, they have held for, probably close to 20 years now, this cooperative audition that's primarily theaters that get together, and a lot of the local actors come to those co-op auditions because they can audition for dozens of local theaters at one time. And this year, 2 of the directors from Sentai, Chris Ayers and Kyle Jones, they went to that theater audition. And so that's when I tell people, it's like, get out there and just do it, because that's really how you make those connections. The people that are probably, going to this theater audition didn't even realize that they're also auditioning possibly, for a job, maybe working in anime. And I know in Houston that's pretty much most of the people that have come in the last 5, 6, 7 years have been people working in theater, and they get, referred by a friend. If one of the directors is like, "Oh man, I'm looking for, an older guy and he has this kind of voice or something." Yeah, so that's really my advice to people is, if you want to be an actor, you should get out there and just do it. Because you never know what it's going to lead to. I never thought I was going to have a professional career voicing characters in anime. I mean, I never thought that that was a real thing that was going to happen. Even when I started doing it, I didn't know how long that would continue. I mean, for all I knew, it wouldn't be successful, and the company would close, and then we would not be doing anime anymore. I mean, I didn't know where this was all going to go, and somehow I'm still doing it after 21 years, and I don't really do theater anymore. I do some stuff on camera, but until you start pursuing it, you don't really know where your interests are going to lie. So I say keep an open mind and just go for it. Just get out there and do it.
Now, outside of anime, you've also been involved in music?
A little bit, yeah.
You produced a CD?
Well, I didn't produce it. I participated.
My bad.
Participated, yes. Jan Scott Frazier actually was the producer on the project. But, yeah, we did 2 albums, Voices for Peace and Voices for Tolerance. And, yes, so I was just more like a backup singer. I'm not really a vocalist, but I wanted to, participate on the project. And you can actually buy for Voices for Peace. We weren't, because of the timing on that and a lot of other issues, they did not get digital rights for that. But people can still buy the CD through cdbaby.com. And we did get, actually, Voices for Tolerance. We never did press a CD of that. So that is only available digitally, Voices for Tolerance. And, so either one of them can be bought through cdbaby.com.
Do you have anything you want to promo? Facebook, Twitter, website?
I guess really the only thing that I probably want to promo is I already did it, Parasite the Maxim. I really love the show. I don't know when the dub will come out, so right now there's just a subtitle. Oh, yeah, well, there is another thing that I could promo. Akame got killed, and I worked on that. It's a 26 episode TV series, and it's going to be on Toonami, and I play an adorable little dog, Koro, who has some secret magical powers. And so that has been dubbed. Also, Parasite the Maxim will be on Toonami as well. I don't know when that's happening, but I definitely want to get a plug in for that. And do not email me and ask me when is the 3rd Ava movie coming out, because I don't know. I do not know. We did it, and I don't know.
This concludes this week's episode. Please subscribe to this podcast so it finds you. You don't find it. Also, please check out my sponsor, Simply Nerdtastic, for nerd soaps and beauty supplies, as well as my website, Popanimecomics.com, for articles pertaining to anime and comics and pop culture. And hopefully I will see you next week.